Yes, sir. Please start. Over to you.
Good evening, friends. Today, in a very difficult era and in difficult times, we are serving our patients with whatever options and whatever research levels we have. And I know it's a very difficult time for each of us, but believe me, there will be a morning, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. So keep fighting, keep hopes, don't let your patient lose their hopes. And with this message, I like to start my topic, which is role of intravenous meropenem in the current times. Now, meropenem is stable to human renal enzyme DHP1, an empirical treatment for serious bacterial infections such as nosocomial pneumonia, catheter-related infection, septicemia, complicated urinary tract infection, gynecological and obstetric infections, pulmonary infection associated with cystic fibrosis, and even serious community-acquired pneumonias. So, what are the actual? There was a American Thoracic Society and European Respiratory Society and European Society for Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Diseases guideline, which suggested meropenem as an option in the initial empirical therapy for nosocomial pneumonia and or pathosevere community-acquired pneumonia. Its lower propensity for inducing seizure means that it is suitable for treating bacterial meningitis and is the only meropenem approved in this indication. As per IDSA guidelines, the use of meropenem is an option in the initial treatment of polymicrobial necrotizing infections of skin, fascia, and muscles. Incisional subcutaneous infections after intestinal and genital tract surgeries, infections after human or an animal bite, in severe intestinal infections. So, all these things, the meropenem has been found to be useful. Now, what is the actual indication? Meropenem is indicated for the treatment of the following infections in adults and children above 3 months of age when caused by susceptible bacteria, especially in the scenario where we have pneumonia, including community-acquired pneumonia and nosocomial pneumonias. Complicated urinary tract infections, complicated appendicitis, peritonitis, intestinal infections, intra and postpartum infections, complicated skin and skin structure infection, bronchopulmonary infection in cystic fibrosis, and which all includes acute bacterial meningitis. So the question comes to how often and at what dosage we should administer. The dosage and the duration shall be established based on the type and severity of infection and the clinical response of the patient. In case of pneumonia, including community-acquired pneumonia and nosocomial pneumonia, dose to be administered every 8 hourly 500 milligram to 1 gram. But in case patients in which infections can be in a severe format, for example, bronchopulmonary infection in cystic fibrosis, dose can go to as high as 2 grams. Complicated urinary tract infection, we remain the same 500 milligram to 1 gram. And for all other infection, we remain at the same dose. Especially infections where the penetration is difficult, where you have to penetrate the blood-brain barrier, and the chance of septicemia and uh, uh, dissemination is very high. Example is acute bacterial meningitis. Those can go as high as 2 gram every 8 hourly. Reconstitution, just 1 minute. I have to call. Dr. Samir, can you call me later? I'm in midst of a webinar. I'm in a webinar. Can I call you back? I'm in presentation. I'm presenting. Oh. Reconstitution constitutes infection vials can be 125 milligram to 250 milligram to 500 milligram to 1 gram with sterile water for injection. Shake to dissolve and constitute solutions are clear and colorless or pale yellow. Vial sizes can vary from 125 milligram to 1 gram, and the amount of diluent which is added starts from 2.5. Based on the size of the vial, it can go to 20 ml. Approximate withdrawable volume is the same as the amount of the diluent, 2.5, 5, 10, and 20 ml. Approximate average concentration in format of milligram per ml is 50 at various sizes of vials. So this is how meropenem comes to us. What are the side effects? Systemic adverse effects. Systemic adverse effects that are reported irrespective of the relationship, the micro meropenem intravenous occurring in more than 1% of the patient, where diarrhea, which accounts to 4.8%, nausea, vomiting, which is around 3.6%, headache, 2.3%, rash, sepsis, constipation, pneumonia, shock, and pruritus. Additional systemic adverse reactions that were reported irrespective of relationship to therapy with meropenem intravenous and occurring in less than 1%, but more than 1% of patients are listed below. Bleeding events seen were gastrointestinal hemorrhage, less than 1%, around 0.5%, melena, 0.3%, epistaxis 0.2%, and even hemoperitoneum 0.2%, adding up to almost 1.2%. Advantage of meropenem over imipenem is it is 16 times more active against Pseudomonas aeruginosa, much less renal adverse effect than imipenem, used as rapid intravenous infections over 5 minutes, better with CNS penetration, and only carbapenem approved for meningitis. So, intravenous meropenem as 2 gram. Rationale behind the use is insufficient drug concentration achieved at standard dose of meropenem, which is around 500 milligram to 1 gram. So, increasing meropenem resistance and European regulatory recommendation all goes in favor. Now it's going in favor of using higher doses. Antibiotic development is dwindling and resistance is increasing. As in the development of antibiotic, you see as the year have passed across, definitely we have gone through various level of resistance, and as the bacteria and the infection becomes smarter, we have to use our own strategies to fight these infections. Now, if you see Pseudomonas, there is an increasing incidence in the Indian setting, and there's increased incidence of ESBL infections. There's twofold rise within a year and threefold rise within just a year, which has been seen as per Journal of Association of Physicians of India 2012 and 2010 published data. So that means that we are facing higher and more difficult infection, more resistant infection, and this is going to be more challenging in coming times. Prevalence of carbapenem resistance gram-negative bacilli, which was published in this journal, where Indian perspective 864 patients were taken. Out of these 864 clinical isolates, 73%, which accounted to 637, were gram-negative bacteria. So carbapenem resistant profile of gram-negative bacteria is really high. So if you see E. coli, Pseudomonas, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, Proteus, and Acinetobacter showing ESBL number percentage resistance to meropenem is something on 37% to E. coli, Pseudomonas around 45%, 8% is Citrobacter, Klebsiella is around 36%, and resistant to imipenem is around 30%, 35% in Pseudomonas. So you see there's an increasing ESBL producers and carbapenem resistance growing in the gram-negative bacterial infections. Carbapenem resistance amongst Pseudomonas aeruginosa, there is around 301 clinical isolates of Pseudomonas aeruginosa from 10 Indian hospitals, which has been collected, and both microdiluents and interpretation criteria has been used to check the susceptibility. Among these isolates, 35.5% isolates shows increased MIC of imipenem and carbapenem, which is more than 8 microgram per ml. So do you think that bacteria are growing rapidly than us? Definitely difficult to answer this, but probably yes. 1 gram TID meropenem was indicated till now for treating complicated subcutaneous tract infections and VAPs. But European Health Regulatory has recommended the use of 2 grams meropenem in serious type of Pseudomonas as well as Acinetobacter species. So higher dose of meropenem is needed in patient with compromised immune system, altered pharmacokinetic profile, increase with bacterial exhibiting higher MIC and higher resistance to carbapenems. So higher dose of meropenem achieves concentration of around 40% of MIC for pathogens with MIC more than 4 microgram per ml. So you see in this graph, it has been correctly shown that 2 gram every 3 hours infusion, which has shown a better concentration, a better antimicrobial profile than 1 gram 3-hourly infusion. So let us use our strength and fight instead of giving up and shifting of higher classes. So when proper pharmacodynamic principles applied to dosage strategies for meropenem, clinical and microbiological outcomes can be optimized. How to maximize the MIC in carbapenem? Increase the dose, increase the duration of IV infusion, and reduce the dosage interval. Would meropenem 2 gram be effective for meropenem resistant organisms? Now, this study concluded on 9 patients with ventilator-associated pneumonia showed that it has a better profile when used 2 gram instead of 1 gram. So, thus, treatment of infection used caused by pathogens with immediate resistance, the meropenem dose administered by 3-hour infusion should be increased to maximum 2 gram every 8 hourly. Febrile neutropenia patients with bacteremia, MIC, if you see in 3 gram 3 hours infusion, 1 gram versus 2 gram to 1 gram had shown a better profile. Only the 3-hour infusions of 2 gram 8 hourly achieved a team of more than of MIC around 8 microgram per ml. So prolonged infusion associated with lower mortality. 42 patients with severe pneumonia had received 4-hour infusion where mortality was 5.6%, and 1-hour infusion when the mortality was some high as 37.5. So superior life-saving effect of meropenem in 4-hour group was mainly due to the prolongation of the time above MIC realized by the prolonged infusion regimen. So now it's needed for adding the other antimicrobials. So meropenem 2 grams seems to be ideal choice in treatment of serious infection caused due to Acinetobacter and Pseudomonas species, meningitis, febrile neutropenia, and immunocompromised patients, nosocomial pneumonia, including ventilator-associated pneumonias. So what is the optimal use of meropenem? There is a 3D approach to the same. Best use of carbapenem can be achieved by using 3D approach: the right drug, the right dose, and the right duration of infusion. That's the 3D approach to the treatment. So let us talk about recent updates. This article is an Italian article. It shows the timing of antibiotic prophylaxis in acute pancreatitis. This is a controlled randomized trial with meropenem showed favorable results. So definitely using a longer duration had better effect. Here there was 215 patients with pancreatitis who were randomized either to group A and group B. Group A who started antibiotic therapy 500 mg TID at admission, and group B who achieved antibiotic after demonstration of necrosis at CT. So 30 patients in group A and 29 patients in group B showed necrosis on CT. Two groups were similar in demography and characteristic of the disease. Antibiotic treatment was started after 4.56 plus 1.2 days from hospitalization in group B, and after 1.07 plus minus 0.6 days in group A, which was quite early. Pancreatic infection occurred in 4 patients in group A, which is around 13.3%, and in 9 patients, which was high, at 31%. So extrapancreatic infection occurred in 16.6% of patients in group A and in 44.8% in group B, which is again almost 4 times. So you see this graph, there is a clinical feature of post complication and outcome of patients into study group. This is group A, which showed that early use of antibiotic was definitely favorable, and that was group B. So need for surgery and length of hospitalization was also higher in group B. Mortality rate was similar in two groups, but 3 of 4 patients with infected necrotis in group A and only 2 out of 9 in group B died. So conclusion, early antibiotic therapy is associated with significant improvement in prognosis of necrotizing acute pancreatitis because of reduction in the occurrence of septic complications. This is another article where it studied the continuous infusion of meropenem in critically ill patient practical consideration. In patients with serious bacterial infection, the achievements of 100% MIC displayed a significant greater clinical cure and bacteriologic eradication. Microbiological success was higher in the continuous infusion group, and continuous infusion was also associated with shorter ICU stay, shorter duration of therapy, and slower total dose of meropenem. This is another study from Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy and Development of this study studied the development of a dose nomogram for continuous infusion meropenem in critically ill patient based on validated population pharmacokinetic models. So, if administered as a continuous instead of intermittent infusion, standard daily dose for patients with intact renal function would lead to meropenem CSS in more than 90% of patients with having critically ill GFR of less than 130 ml per minute. So this trial is an ongoing trial, and it is actually evaluating bolus versus continuous infusion of meropenem. The safety and the scientific validity of this study is the responsibility of the study sponsor and investigator. Listing a study does not mean that it has been evaluated by US federal government, knows the risk and potential benefit of clinical study, and talk to your healthcare provider for better participating and read out the disclaimer for details that was mentioned in the website for this trial. So that is how it is going. So, as beta-lactam efficacy is determined by the time in which the drug concentration exceeds the minimum inhibiting concentration of the target pathogens, intermittent infusion of this short half-life drug was led to precipitous drop in serum drug levels, and occurrence linked to emergence of resistant pathogen. And investigator hypothesis beneficial effect of a continuous meropenem infusion or mortality and emergence of drug-resistant pathogens. Thank you very much, and I definitely will expect some discussion over here. So if anybody has any question or any doubt, you can put in the chat box. I'd like to thank the sponsor for giving us this opportunity to present this topic on meropenem. Thank you very much. Am I audible?
You're audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.